There is a question about whether the Buddha's enlightenment is differ from the enlightenment that modern day spiritual teachers are talking about. And with my experience, I can see that most of these modern day spiritual teachers are coming up with their own experience of this enlightenment, and they are trying to share that with others with their own words. And that is why I actually created this channel, the Echoing Buddha's Teaching, because I do see the similarities between those teaching and Buddha's teaching. But I do see that really some Buddhist scholars may have a question of, is it the same thing? Because the Buddhist scholars do know more detail about Buddha's teaching and his descriptions and different kind of different dimension of this enlightenment. So they might think that really this is different than what currently being surface in this modern world as the enlightenment. So for that, I thought that someone has asked a very good question from Rupert Spira. And I do see that really the answer from Rupert Spira, from which perspective he's answering it. And at the same times, I could see the questionnaire, she's asking the question in a different perspective. Maybe that really she didn't explain it properly, or maybe that she's asking the right question, but I could see different perspective of that question. So I want to elaborate from that question and go into more detail of this Buddha's teaching on the enlightenment and the similarities between that enlightenment and the enlightenment what we were talking about in the modern day. At the surface level, this question is about the completeness of the enlightenment, whether there is a enlightenment that which is not fully comprehensive. I think that is what the question is all about. We'll go into that and then I'll explain a little bit more.
Difference between the enlightenment in this scenario with, for example, like Buddha's enlightenment. Because in Buddhism, they said Buddha's enlightenment is fully completion. Does it because he did all sadhanas, all different approaches, have very lots of experience, and then finally he experienced a moment. So his journey is a little bit different from generally we experience.
So the question is more, if I elaborate a little bit more, what she's asking is that Buddha's, when you go to Buddha's life and then his journey, he has been a prince and then he let go of all that and then went to the austerity and did so many years of meditation and sacrifices and all that. After all that, only he became the Buddha. So it looks like, he has done so many things to get a complete enlightenment. So, but here what we are doing is, of course, with a very short attention to our awareness and then enhancing our awareness. So we are just getting into that. So is there a difference between those two? That's the question, if I elaborate a little bit more. So we'll go to the Rupert's answer.
But everybody's journey is slightly different. If we were to ask everyone here, 120 or so plus 200 at home, if we were to ask everyone, how have you come to the recognition of the nature of your being? Everybody would tell a different story. The closer you get to your being, the more similar the stories will be. It's like if 300 people were to describe their pathway up a mountain, and they all start at the foot of the mountain, there'd be 300 people starting on the opposite side of the mountain would tell very different stories. For one, it's a steep rock face. For the other, it's a gentle amble. But the closer you get to the top, the more similarity there is between the stories. And in the last few meters, the stories are all the same. And what we
Here that Rupert is giving that answer to the question that, as I elaborated, like according to she think that really the Buddha has done so many things, and it is a long way path to become enlightened. But Rupert is explaining is, of course, it can be on different ways. So I think you got the gesture, but I just want to elaborate a little bit more on that.
you were doing this morning was the last few meters. It's the same for everyone. So
again, that really when it comes to the enlightenment or the other very closer to the your being, it should be the same. And even Buddha has mentioned that. Really, Buddha mentioned it as like if anybody wanted to see me, like you need to see me as becoming enlightened, because when you become enlightened, that means you are really as me, in the sense that yo dhammam passati mam passati. That means if somebody who has seen the enlightenment, that person will see the Buddha, the nature of Buddha, which is actual meaning of the enlightenment in Buddha's term. So that is what Rupert is bringing up to. He's saying that really whoever come closer, that they would know, and then finally when they get to that, it's the same. It's no difference between that enlightenment and any other enlightenment, but the way to get to that, you may follow a different path.
But remember, I sense in you that you still feel that, you still believe that enlightenment is an extraordinary experience.
Actually,
enlightenment is
because I watched your videos, so I know it's not an extraordinary experience.
But even so, I don't think you were convinced by my video, because I think you still feel that I was...
I just got confused about completion, this concept, because before to watching your videos, I practiced in the Buddhist tradition, and they always said the Buddha's enlightenment is a complete one. So I was confused about what's the difference between, is there any complete...
Abandon the idea, both...
And here I just want to elaborate that her questions, because she's coming from the Buddha's, with the Buddhist background, or she has been practicing Buddhist meditation and all that. So I'm coming from there as well. So I know what I think what trigger for her to ask this question. So I'm just giving some different dimension of this question would have been. It came to her. Maybe that one thing is that really Buddha mentioned about 3 attributes of Buddha, the enlightenment, which are really the Samma Sambuddha, mean that really the Buddha, like him, who can actually get the enlightenment and explain perfectly, comprehensively, impeccably to others, so then others can follow it without any guru. So that is actually one attribute of a Buddha. There had been 25 different Buddhas according to the legends, that really the even previous eons and all that. But so it is kind of a special attribute that a person who has enlightened may carry. So that is one of the reasons she may be asking that really it's a complete enlightenment. That could be one. I'm just giving 3 different scenarios here. But on this particular one that really Buddha mentioned, of course, the one person is, one attribute is actually you are Samma Sambuddha, or there could be a Pacceka Buddha, or Passe Buddha in more lighter term. That means that really people can be enlightened without even knowing the Buddha's teaching, but that person may not be able to explain it properly. He cannot explain the actual what happened to him. because it happens all of a sudden, spontaneously, or sometimes it happens without any visibility of Buddha's teaching. So that is one of the attribute that whoever enlightened may have. So the third one is Arihat. So that means the people who have actually listened to Buddha's teaching and then followed Buddha's method and became enlightened. So there are three attributes of this enlightenment according to Buddha's teaching. One is, of course, the Samma Sambuddha. Other one is the Pacceka Buddha, in the sense the person who has enlightened without even Buddha's teaching. And then the third one is, of course, the person who has followed the Buddha's teaching and became enlightened. We call Arihat. So all these three attributes connected with the same enlightenment, the experience or the actual being is the same, like Rupert is talking about. Being is the same. So, but actually when you get there, you may bear different attribute with you. So then you can actually, like, Samma Sambuddha or the Gautama Buddha in this eon, he could explain things properly and then give the teaching to anybody that who is really asking, have that kind of a questions, or they have that barrier. He can open up that gate for that person. But the Pacceka Buddha or the Passe Buddha, that he may not have that kind of attribute or the skill to do that, because he has just realized, or he has just enlightened, and he didn't know how to explain it or how to teach the other person. And the third one, of course, the Arihat, who has followed Buddha's teaching, or that person may have some attribute to explain it, because that person followed the Buddha's teaching, and then all the formula that Buddha has given is more conducive to him as well. So then he would explain it properly. So those are the three different type of attribute that a person who has enlightened has. So that is why I think this question is more towards that kind of explanation. She's looking for, is there any difference between that, what Rupert, you are talking about as your experience, and the actual Buddha's experience, that who has that attribute of the way that he can explain and then give the different formulas to people to follow it and then realize by themselves. So I think that's one aspect of these questions. There are a few other aspects I can talk about. So if I go to that, the next one would be that Buddha has given the enlightenment in 4 stages. The 4 stages are the stream winner, once returner, non-returner, and completely enlightened, which is Arihat. So her question may be that really that last stage of enlightenment, is it a complete one, in the sense that really you have that enlightenment constantly, no any lapse? So why I say so is that really the Buddha's these 4 stages, the first stage of enlightenment, which is the stream winner, that person will get a glimpse of enlightenment, a glimpse of non-self. So that is very profound. It will really impact you as you are enlightened. So some people may actually taken this as the full enlightenment and try to go with that, and then maybe change their way of living, and little by little they just go towards the fully enlightenment. Actually, it will happen to you. According to Buddha, that really whoever been the enlightened or the whoever the Sotapanna or the first stage of enlightenment, which is the stream winner, will be born only maximum of 7 births or 7 lifetimes. That means that really that kind of a profound enlightenment would effortlessly bring about the full enlightenment, the complete enlightenment, like that this questionnaire, the questionnaires wording, she may be referring to that as a complete enlightenment. So that is what another aspect of it. Or it could be that really the person who enlightened may think that really he's fully enlightened, but he may be not really fully enlightened. He's on the first stage of enlightenment, or maybe second stage of enlightenment, maybe third stage of enlightenment. And this questioner may be asking, are we really talking about the fully enlightenment, or are we talking about this one stage of enlightenment? That is the second aspect of these questions. And so I think it's a very interesting question, and then I thought that it might give us a good ground to talk about this different type of enlightenment and different attribute of a person who is enlightened. So that's why I want to talk about. I'll go to further detail after the Rupert's answer to this.
Of enlightenment and of completion.
Okay.
What you are is the light of pure knowing. It cannot get any brighter than it is now. It is from time to time endarkened or veiled by experience, thoughts, feelings, sensations, and so on. But the light of yourself now is shining as brightly as it is ever going to shine. It cannot be completed because it is already perfect, whole, indivisible, unconditionally fulfilled now. There's no completion and no enlightenment.
So here that Rupert is explaining it as fully enlightened. In my mind, I can see that really he has any doubt about this enlightenment would be a temporary one. But that because of his experience is actually constant. There is no lapse in his experience. So that means he's really complete enlightened. So then he's answering to the question that really, that's all. You don't need anything. But most of the people who's listening even may know that really some people have had that experience for a glimpse, kind of a glimpse of a experience, or just for a fraction of a second, that you have that kind of enlightened experience, which is actually you are apart from yourself, and you can experience, you can feel, you can perceive a place where that really you don't have any birth or death, in the sense that really you are experiencing that. You experience that non-self. So, but it was just for a glimpse of it. I have come across actually some of the participants on my meditation session. They asked the question. I did have that glimpse of a experience of this, what you're talking about as non-self, but I can't get there anymore. Now I'm just trying to get there. And then how can I get there? So that is one of the stage that really, as Buddha mentioned, that is the stream winner who has had the glimpse of that enlightenment. And then that experience stays with you all the time, but it's underneath. But on top of that, still your other thoughts and your emotions and your defilements come to play and subdue that experience for so long, so many times. But according to Buddha, it can only subdue that experience for only 7 births, because it is so profound, that your experience is so profound that will surge through you. So for that, it may take time. So in that case, when it surges through, and then when you your defilements fade away, you go through the different stages of enlightenment, which is a non-returner, once returner, and complete Ariyat. So that is the completion there. So that is the difference between this discussion. But I do see that really what we are talking about, the same enlightenment, but in the case of that getting there is different. In the sense, like Rupert was talking about, it's climbing the mountain. Some people may just go up, all the way up, maybe on that steep hill, that person who has climbed up that hill and then getting to the top. So then from there onward, he doesn't have anything to do. But the people who coming through on the other part, they might, follow through that different layers of enlightenment until it come to the complete enlightenment, as that questionnaire asks. So that is the other perspective or the other dimension of this discussion.
Just the recognition of what we are, or the ignoring of what we are, the revealing of what we are, or the concealing of what we are. All the Buddha recognized was the nature of his being.
So this is actually again that the recognition can be done in 4 stages. That is the gap here I could see between this questionnaire and Rupert's. Rupert's is giving the full enlightenment. The questionnaire is asking a different aspect of this enlightenment with her knowledge about the Buddha's teaching and the practices of Buddha's teaching. So with this, I would conclude here, because I wanted to reiterate that really the Rupert is echoing Buddha's teaching. And the thing is that really we need to understand the which perspective is coming from. And then, of course, then you can connect between those teaching, and you will find that there's no difference. It is the same. And then this is just, as I mentioned earlier, that Rupert is echoing Buddha's teaching.